Hey everyone, Works here. So Blizzard just dropped some new PTR development patch notes that have some Druid changes in them, so we're going to be taking a look at them. Quick aside for those of you, also we'll be looking at some other changes that I think are interesting on other classes. We'll see what I mean in a minute. So Blizzard announced there's a variety of different posts on Wildhead, so it's kind of hard to keep track of all this stuff right now, but what I'm going to do is kind of go over generally what we're looking at. Each spec has gotten a little bit of change, a little bit of adjustments, and Feral, of course, has gotten the biggest set of adjustments in this round of PTR changes, so we're going to go over all of that here. Some of these will be very short, some of these might take a little bit of explaining, and we'll go from there. So let's dive in right into the changes. So we're going to start with this one. This is the official blue post that came out. This is not the full slate of changes, this is just the first kind of aspect of it, and then we've had some data mining and another blue post on Feral specifically that we'll talk about. But we'll start with Balanced Druid. So Astral Communion, in addition to its active effect, also passively increases your AP by 20. So Astral Communion right now gives you 60 astral power when you activate it on a 1-minute cooldown, and then it's passively going to give you another 100 AP. I don't know if this is going to make this talent still worth picking. Like right now we don't pick it at all in any build that I've played with. I don't think that it's going to change that. The extra 20 AP passive I think is going to be fine, but it's a matter of the fact that we don't need that type of on-demand astral power generation because we have pretty strong AP gen as it is already between the dots, the Fury of the Loon procs, and then of course your normal builders. So having, and if you really needed some AP gen, you would just take Balance or Nature's Balance. So so it's just like a situation where it's kind of hard to justify taking this, and I don't think the 20 extra AP generation is going to fix, or the passive 20 AP pool added on is going to fix that at all. Again, smarter balancers than me will probably go into it a lot more in depth and see what they can do with it, along with some of the other talent changes that are coming. But as someone that has been playing a little bit of balance and is relearning balance again after having mained it, God, Wrath was 13 or 14 years ago now at this point. You know, I don't think this is going to change much with this talent and its pick rate. Guardian, a nice little quality of life buff. Added a tracker buff for after the wildfire to indicate remaining rage expenditure until a trigger occurs. I really like this. I definitely see this being added on to things like your Weak Aura packages, the Luxus package, the Afinar package, or whatever other packages that you might use. It now makes this as a Weak Aura a lot easier to track and maintain because you're going to be able to implement it into Weak Auras because it now has an official spell ID, which this is what this tracker buff basically means, is that it's going to have a spell ID, which means that it's now going to be much more easily trackable in terms of Weak Auras and stuff like that. So just good quality of life change after the wildfires kind of become a mandatory all builds pick because it's just very powerful, great set of off healing. So, you know, we take it. Anytime you can get something that make quality of life a little bit better, I think that that's quite good. Probably doesn't change how you're going to play after the wildfire. Like, you're going to spend rage and spend rage. You're not necessarily going to try to game it to get like the last 20 or 40 rage built off when like the whole group's low. You're just going to keep spending rage. But, you know, the fact that you can look at it and see when you're going to get a proc is going to be nice because it may open up communication lines with your healers. Now, Restoration gets some interesting potential changes here. They're getting a couple of new talents on a choice node. First one is Forest Flow. Nourish extends the duration of Life Bloom, Rejuve, Regrowth, Wild Growth effects on targets by 2 seconds. It's a choice node with Wild Synthesis, which is Regrowth decreases the cast time of your next Nourish by 25% and causes it to receive an additional 25% bonus from Mastery Harmony. So I think what this choice node is designed to do is give you a better like single target. Let's look at Nourish, because we don't really take Nourish in most builds as far as I'm aware. I don't use it in any of my builds. So Nourish basically is just another heal that gets triple bonus from Mastery Harmony, but it's 2-second cast. It's 15 or 18% of base mana. It's a very, very expensive spell. And so these patch notes are basically making it so that it also will extend your HOTS, which can potentially now the question is does this do it on just the target you cast it on, or does it do it on all targets like the Verdant Infusion type like Flourish does? It, you know, extends the duration of all your HOTS. If it only does it on one target, then you're basically looking at how do you want this to work. I still don't think Nourish is really going to be worth taking. And then also it's going to get a little bit of a tooltip quality of life update, which is perfectly fine. So overall, these changes for Resto, I don't know how impactful this is going to be. I don't really think Nourish is played all that much. Now, I'm not a full-time Resto Druid, but I try to keep up with the spec, and in a lot of cases, I'm not seeing Nourish being picked because it's incredibly expensive for what it does. So I don't think it's going to change much about the restoration side of Tree. Guardian gets a little quality of life update, which is cool. And Astral Communion, I don't think it's going to change the fact that it's not really picked at all in most builds right now. I just don't see it happening. Now, for those of you that are longtime WoW watchers of mine, you know that I played Monk for basically the last expansion and a half or so. I wanted to talk real quickly about the Brewmaster changes. Brewmaster got some really nice stuff here. I think Stagger's now baseline, which is good. They get a new ability, Spirit of the Ox, where your Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick have a chance to summon healing spheres. So you're getting even more potential healing spheres out there, which helps with the sustain issue that Brewmaster has had. And they buffed Quick Sip, which is fine. I don't know if Quick Sip was being picked, but hey, it's a buff. Buff is buff. What I really want to talk about is these 4 talents right here, all getting reduced to 1 point from 2. I think is really nice for the Brewmaster talent bloat. That's one of my big issues that I had with the Brewmaster talent tree, is that it felt very bloated and you couldn't get like really good things that you wanted. So them reducing talent point bloat in this tree, I think, is a really good decision. Still doesn't fix the button bloat issue and some of the kind of baseline problems with particularly magic damage for Brewmaster, but it's a start. So for those of you that are Brewmasters or still around, or Brewmasters, or found my channel because I was also a Brewmaster, still keeping an eye on the Brewmaster spec itself. If they can do something with the button bloat that Brewmaster has, then Warwick's Monk might be making a comeback. So as far as the Mistweaver changes go, I'm not... Mistweaver has changed so incredibly much from Shadowlands that honestly I'm just going to recommend keeping an eye on Megaset's YouTube channel to see what she thinks about this. She's been doing a lot of really cool things with Mistweaver, so she'll be able to explain like how much of this is actually going to be good. A couple bug fixes with Phalanx Stomp, which is good, and so we like that. So Monk gets some nice little changes there. Is it enough for me to bust out the Monk again? I don't know. Probably not until they fix the button bloat issue with Windwalker and Brewmaster, but if they do, I might be leveling it again. Alright, now we're going to talk about this post, which had some data mined class tuning for a bunch of different specs. But again, we're focused mainly on Druid. And what we're going to be talking about here is just a flat 3% aura buff on basically all spells. Let's see, is anything missing in particular? Brutal Slash is there. Let's see. Yeah, basically on every single spell, they did a 3% aura buff across the board. If you've been following me on Twitter or anything like that, you know I've been talking about the fact that Feral is starting to fall behind from a raid damage perspective, and it's not a powerhouse spec in Mythic Plus. However, the Bleed AoE build is still pretty good. So the fact that they're getting a 3% buff is going to only make them better in AoE situations, which is, I actually believe, their stronger point right now. And it's going to help in the single target side of things, which I'm not upset about. However, the big post here is this right here. Make sure, okay, my fat head's not in the way. So Blizzard did a blue post on some additional Pharaoh changes coming in a future 10.0.5 PTR build. Now, let me go ahead and shrink this window real quick. There we go. Let's grab the PTR Feral tree because we're gonna need it. Let me blow that back up a little bit. Let's close these because I won't need them. Alright, so they move Tear Open Wounds directly below Primal Wrath with a connector to Pouncing Strikes. So they're going to move Tear Open Wounds from here to here, and then they're going to connect it straight down. I think that's fine. In terms of a build path, like I think it makes sense to have it go that way. Moved Lunar Inspiration below and to the left of Sudden Ambush. So right here, so it's below and to the left. So Lunar Inspiration is going to hang out here, which means it's coming out of this choice node with Feral Frenzy, and it's coming up here, right next to Predatory Swiftness. I'm not sure what to make of that. there's a chance the Moonfire dot build makes for single target makes a comeback in the 0.05 patch, but I'm not 100% sure. Tear open wounds now deal 70% of the rip damage it consumes, up from 60. Yay, we like that. Taste for Blood, a talent I've been railing against for a while now. Changed to a single point node that increases ferocious bite damage by 5% per bleed on the target. This actually is going to really give a nice option of routing through the tree. So, for example, let's do this for a pure single target. You're going to grab this. You still probably skip Tear Open Wounds and Double Clawed Rake, but you can come down now and grab 1 point here, which means that you can still, you're still potentially spending another point here. Like, you could potentially skip Infected Wounds for Taste for Blood to take the focus off your bleeds it a little bit more into a Ferocious Bite based build. I still don't think it's better than the Spinning Plates bleed builds that we've gotten right now, but there is potential now that with Taste for Blood being a 1 point talent, as I've kind of been recommending it for a while, and many other ferals have as well, it might all of a sudden see play in some single target builds. In AoE based builds, I don't think it sees play though. Sudden Ambush also changed to a single point node that grants 6% per combo points. So basically they took this row and reduced the button bloat. Now this is really interesting as well. So, normally you'd be doing something like, I forgot to grab a point here. Let's see, 7. Oh, yeah, there's 2 points there. So all of a sudden you can go a point here, and what you were spending 2 points here, you can now go a point here. And then all of a sudden you're going to be able to come down the tree. So like you're not actually missing out on Infected Wounds with Sudden Ambush being changed to a point now. And you can still get Taste for Blood. I think that actually opens up some really interesting possibilities, even in the AoE build now, for the possibility of like an Apex Bleed Bite build for funnel damage. Interesting. We'll have to see how it looks when the trees are updated. Lunar Inspiration, Moonfire damage increased to 125% of the 10.0.2 value, which is, I think, the current patch. So Lunar Inspiration is just getting a straight up buff. I think Lunar Inspiration might see its way into single target builds, where you're playing a more dot-based, Ferocious Bite style gameplay. Potentially. I think there is a chance that with Lunar Inspiration, you run Lunar Inspiration, Adaptive Swarm, and you play basically a 5 spinning plate build where you run Adaptive Swarm, Lunar Inspiration, and then your 3 other bleeds, Thrash, Rake, and Rip. And you have a really good opportunity to just kind of have a really high uptime spec to where if you refresh everything and then have to target switch, yeah, you're going to have some ramp up on the new target, but the previous target is just going to have a lot of dot ticking. That also means something like Unbridled Swarm may see more value in that, just because you are going to be having that spread of bees a lot more. All right, Rip and Tear. Tear damage increased to 15. Actually, no, excuse me. Relentless Predator now reduces cost by 40%. So this talent here, it's not really seeing any play in any build that I use because it just kind of throws off the timing of the energy restore. But Ferocious Bite, originally 35 energy, so that's a big cost reduction. It definitely builds into the potential for Ferocious Bite to be a very powerful, cost efficient builder, but I think you're still going to have to wait to 50 energy. So we'll have to figure out the new numbers on this. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to go over it right off the top of my head. Rip and Tear buffed by 3%. Cool. Infected Wounds bonus reverted to 10.02 value, so they changed that nerf a little bit and went back to 30%, but they also did revert the Vein Ripper bonus back to 25%, down from 33%. So Vein Ripper right over here, as you can see, is 33%, so they made that 25% again. I think that makes Rip and Tear kind of the default choice if you're taking a talent in this node at all. But I really like the changes most to Sudden Ambush and Taste for Blood being 1 more point. I think it makes build diversity and some potential picks at the bottom of the tree and in the middle of the tree much more valuable. So overall there, let's read their kind of little developer's note. We are happy that players are enjoying the full bleed AoE build that almost entirely spends combo points on Primal Wrath. Good. We want to keep that build strong for players that enjoy it while providing other viable alternatives. As we continue to iterate on balance, we believe the last round of changes reduced its power too much. Thank you. So we are undoing some changes and adding some boosts to damage dealt by Tear Open Wounds and Rip and Tear. So some bleed nerfs are still staying, some of them are not, and they did some buffs to some talents to kind of compensate for it. I find that interesting. Not sure I like it. They probably could have just left everything alone and then buffed Tear Open Wounds and Rip and Tear, and it would have been fine. Lunar Inspiration is no longer a choice node with Feral Frenzy and has been moved to the middle section of the tree. We adjusted its damage to be appropriate for its new location. Taste for Blood and Sun Ambush are now single point nodes with the intention of making them more appealing alternatives for moving down the tree. Good. So we'll see overall where this goes. Again, Lunar Inspiration is going to be a tuning thing to see if it starts making its way into potential single target builds. I think that's the only place that it's viable. Because we don't have something like Twin Moonfire like Balance and Guardian does in order to spread it more effectively. And then we'll kind of see where the numbers fall on things like Taste for Blood and a potential single target build as well, where you may be doing a little bit more in the Ferocious Bite range. Taste for Blood may even find its way into the Apex build that I use for AoE. Just because you generally always have, 2 to 3 rakes on the target, so you're talking an extra 5-10% damage on a target. So like there's some interesting possibilities with the builds here. Overall, I think for the most part these changes mostly positive. A couple of them that feel like they're unnecessary. Like I said, I don't 100% know about the Nourish changes and what they're trying to do to make Nourish more appealing by giving it some extra oomph and power in the tree, but the Balanced Druid change, I think, is kind of meaningless. It doesn't really, in my opinion, change anything. Bears get a good quality of life change, which I'm down for. Restos get the Nourish stuff, which may or may not be all that important. And Ferals get some really important changes going with a couple of blue posts to kind of address that. So overall, I think I'm pretty happy. So we'll keep an eye on the builds. We'll keep making videos as we get updated Druid information. Thank you for those that stuck aside from my little monk aside there. I'll chapter that in the video so that you don't have to go back and watch that if you don't care about Monk, but Monk is still very much a part of a class that I keep an eye on, even though I'm not really playing it right now. Anyways, guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking around. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until the next video, hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're enjoying yourself. You're having fun. You keep on gaming, and I will see you all in the next video.